The alley behind the Rustbone Market was always filled with garbage and broken things. Crates piled high with rotting food, leaking oil drums, and cages too small for even rats. But today, in the cold shadows, something else sat inside one of those cages. She was an alien girl, young and thin, with silver hair tangled like wires. Her skin was dull blue, bruised in places, and her clothes were torn rags. A sign hung crookedly from the bars. "Unwanted, make an offer." Beside her cage, a drunk alien trader laughed, taking swigs from a half-empty bottle. "2 bottles and a cart. That's what I want," he slurred, pointing at her like she was trash, "or I throw her into the waste compactor by sundown." Crowds passed by without care. No one wanted to buy a broken slave, especially one that looked like she'd fall over from a sneeze. She didn't beg, didn't cry, didn't even look up like her soul had left long ago. But someone did stop. A man in a tattered human coat, boots full of dust, and eyes that had seen too much. His name was Joran. He didn't carry weapons or credits, just a bag of old parts and a half-broken scanner. He looked at the girl for a long time, not with hunger, not with pity, but with a quiet question in his eyes. Why is she still alive? The trader chuckled. "You want this one, human? Ha! I'll throw in the cage if you give me 2 bottles of liquor and that junk cart of yours." Joran didn't answer, just looked at the cage again. The girl finally turned her face. Her eyes met his. They were strange eyes, full of pain. But something deeper too. Not hope, exactly, but maybe the memory of it. Joran reached into his pack. He pulled out 2 glass bottles, still sealed, still shining with amber liquid. And then he wheeled forward a rusty shopping cart, full of gears and old metal. Everyone stared as he handed it over without a word. The trader roared with laughter. "You really are crazy. She's yours, human. No takebacks." The lock was broken off, and the cage door creaked open. But the girl didn't move. Joran knelt down and held out his hand. She flinched at first, like a beaten animal. Then, slowly, she crawled forward, her bare feet scraping the dirt. She reached out and touched his hand like she didn't believe it was real. He wrapped a blanket around her small shoulders and whispered, "You're not garbage." The market around them didn't care. Other traders laughed. Aliens mocked, a fool and his cart. "Wasted on a corpse," someone said. But Joran walked away with her in his arms. Silent, steady, like he was carrying something valuable. Not something traded for booze. Back in his shelteran old cargo pod with patched walls, he cleaned her wounds. She didn't speak, didn't even sleep, just sat there hugging the blanket. Joran left warm food near her, but didn't force her. Outside, the wind howled through the broken colony walls. Inside, something small and quiet was changing. That night, Joran looked at her again. He didn't know her name, her past, or why she had been thrown away, but he knew one thing. No one deserved to be sold for liquor and a cart. Not even on a planet like this. She watched him too. Her eyes half shut, breathing slow for the first time in many nights. She was not afraid of sleep, not yet safe, but less alone. Somewhere deep inside her, something flickered. Not fire, not light, but the soft idea that maybe, just maybe, her story wasn't over. And Joran, he didn't realize it yet, but by taking her in, he hadn't just bought a broken girl. He had triggered a secret the galaxy tried to bury, and that secret was waking up. The small alien girl slept sitting up, her back against the metal wall, even in her sleep. Her arms were wrapped tightly around her knees. Joran watched her from the other side of the cargo pod. She hadn't spoken a word since he brought her here. The heater hummed weakly in the corner, struggling against the cold outside. The wind still howled through the colony's broken walls. But inside, the pod was quiet, almost too quiet. Joran placed a warm tin of broth near her feet. Steam rose from the bowl, but she didn't move. He didn't push her. Instead, he sat back and started cleaning old ship parts. The silence stretched for hours when the broth cooled. She finally lifted her head. Her eyes were tired, as if she hadn't truly rested in years. She looked at the food, then at Joran. No words, just fear. "And doubt," he spoke softly. "It's not poisoned. And I won't touch you." Her fingers trembled as she reached out and pulled the bowl closer. She drank fast, too fast, and choked on the heat. Still, she kept eating, like it might vanish if she paused. Joran didn't smile, didn't speak. He just turned back to his work. She finished the food and set the empty bowl down like it was made of gold. Then, without warning, she curled up again and hid her face. Hours passed. That night, Joran checked the scanner he had built from scraps. He waved it slowly over her body while she slept. The screen glitched once, then lit up red. There it was. Near her neck, something small under her skin. A tracking device. "Damn," Joran muttered. Rubbing his face, he had seen this tech before black market implants. Usually old military or slave tech, hard to remove without tools. Even harder without hurting the person. The next day, he tried to talk to her. "What's your name?" He asked gently. She stared at him but didn't answer. He tried again. "Do you remember where you came from?" This time, she blinked. Lips parting, she whispered, "Tira." Then, her voice broke. "No, not mine. Not me." She shook her head violently, clutching her skull. Joran knelt beside her, trying not to spook her. "Tara, is that someone else?" She cried softly. "I don't know. It's in my head. It's not mine." Joran sat back, heart sinking, memories that weren't hers. A forced memory implant, maybe, or stolen identity data. Someone had used her for more than labor. Someone had put things inside her. That night, while she slept, Joran wrote down everything. Strange behavior, name confusion, and the implant. He sketched the shape of the device from the scan military grade. Encrypted. Then he checked the colony's tracker database. Nothing came up. "She's off the grid," he said to himself. Which means someone wanted her to disappear. Days passed slowly. She didn't speak again, but she ate what he gave her. He made her a small bed from old blankets, but she still preferred to sleep on the floor. Her skin was healing, but the fear in her eyes stayed. Every noise made her flinch. Every shadow made her freeze. Joran didn't ask her anything else. He focused on fixing the pod, keeping the power running, watching the scanner. He started calling her Starlet, not her real name, just something kind. And oddly, she didn't reject it. Maybe she liked it. Or maybe she just needed any name that didn't come with screams. One night, Joran was outside. Checking the solar plates, he returned to find her standing, staring at a mirror, not looking at her face, but at the back of her neck where the implant was. She turned to him slowly and asked her first full question. "What is inside me?" Joran froze, then answered carefully, "Something someone wanted to hide. Maybe something important." Her hands shook, but her voice didn't. "Then why didn't they kill me?" Joran stepped forward, eyes serious, because maybe they couldn't, or maybe. "You're more dangerous alive than dead." That night, she didn't sleep. She just sat awake, staring into the dark, not crying, not trembling. Just thinking, and Joran, watching from the shadows, realized something else. She wasn't just broken. She wasn't just a slave. She was something hidden. Something the galaxy tried to erase, and somehow, fate had dropped her into his hands. Not a soldier, not a hero. Just a human scavenger. But he had made a choice. She was not going back into the trash, even if it meant burning the world that threw her away. The rain fell hard on the metal roof of Joran's shelter. It made soft ticking sounds, like a broken clock. Inside, the air was warm, but tense. The girl sat near the heater, her knees drawn to her chest, silent as ever. But her eyes were different now. They were sharper, more awake. She was thinking, she was remembering. Joran placed a small old tablet on the table between them. It flickered to life with a blue glow. "I want to try something," he said, voice calm. "Maybe it'll help you figure out what's inside you." She didn't answer. But she leaned forward, curious. He connected the scanner to the tablet, then waved it gently over the spot on her neck. The screen lit up with encrypted date names, fragments, coordinates, dates. But it was all scrambled, broken. Then, something strange happened. The girl placed her fingers on the tablet without being told, and the screen shifted. Lines of code reordered themselves, an audio file unlocked. A woman's voice played through the static. "This is Terra 9. I am the last witness. If you hear this, you must bring it to light." Then a scream, cut off. The girl flinched, pulling her hand back. "I know that voice," she whispered, "but I'm not her." Joran stared at her. "Do you remember her?" "No," she said slowly, "but I feel like I've lived her pain." Joran sat beside her. "Heart pounding, she's in your head," he said. "Not like a ghost, but like a memory forced inside you." She nodded, her voice shaking. "It hurts when I sleep. I see people I've never met, places I've never been. They used me," she whispered. Like a shell, he understood now. She wasn't just carrying a tracker. She was carrying someone's entire memory. Not downloaded, not digital implanted. "That's illegal tech," Joran muttered. "Forbidden since the war, only the rich. The corrupt or the desperate used it now. And whoever did it didn't expect her to survive." The girl looked down at her shaking hands. "I wasn't supposed to remember, right?" "No," Joran said quietly. "You were supposed to be erased after delivery." The tablet beeped again. One name flashed through the glitchy file. Admiral Vescorn. Joran froze. He had heard that name before. War criminal, warlord, and one of the most powerful figures in the Varnox Empire. He disappeared years ago. No trial, no punishment, just vanished. What if she was trying to expose him? Joran asked. The girl looked up, her voice almost a whisper. "And they hid her inside me to destroy her quietly." Joran stood up. Pacing now, "This isn't just about saving you anymore," he said. "If you really have Terra 9's memories, and if she knew the truth about Vescorn, then someone out there will do anything to find you." Suddenly, the power flickered, the tablet screen dimmed, and the outer motion sensor chirped. Joran grabbed his makeshift blaster and moved to the door. Outside, he saw nothing at first, just rain and fog. Then a small drone buzzed past the pod. Scanning with red light, Joran ducked back in and shut the door. "They found you," he whispered. "They're already watching." The girl backed away, her breath quickening. "What do we do?" Joran looked around at the small shelter, the broken tools, the low supplies. "We run," he said. "We take the memories and run. But to where?" She asked, voice rising. "Somewhere they don't own." He said, "There is a resistance station to sectors out. They might still be active." He quickly packed supplies, tools, food, water, blankets. He pulled out a small chip from the tablet and placed it in a metal capsule. "This is your key," he said, handing it to her. "Hide it, always. Even from me if you have to." She took it and stared at him. Her hands were still trembling, but her voice wasn't. "My name's not Terra," she said softly, "but I'll carry her truth." Joran nodded, his eyes full of respect. "Then let's make sure the galaxy hears it." Outside, the wind howled louder, drones buzzed closer. Searching, sweeping, but inside the pod, two lives moved with purpose. One was a man who used to fix junk. The other was a girl sold for liquor. Now, both carried a secret that could change the galaxy. They weren't ready. They weren't safe. But they weren't alone anymore. The colony streets were empty before dawn. Neon signs flickered like tired eyes, and a cold wind swept dust across the stone roads. In the distance, boots echoed, steady and precise. A shadow moved through the mist, tall and silent. She wore a long coat with armored plates. Her face hidden by a black visor. No badge, no name. No lights, just silence and death. Her name was Velka. And she didn't need to speak to be feared. A holopad blinked in her hand, showing one blurry photo, the alien girl's face. Half covered in dirt and blood. Target still alive. Read the message. Recover or eliminate. Meanwhile, in a corner of the scrapyard district, Joran was already awake. He had packed most of his gear into an old hover cart. Fuel cells, food rations, filters, tools, and under the tarp, weapons he hadn't touched in years. The girl still using the name Starlet was rolling up blankets. She moved slowly, but with purpose. She no longer looked like a slave. There was a fire in her eyes now, small but growing. Joran checked the scanner again. No drones today, he said. That's not good. She tilted her head. Confused, he explained. If they've stopped scanning, it means they've sent someone who doesn't need to scan. Her eyes widened. A hunter, she whispered. Joran nodded. Tightening the strap on his blaster, packed faster, he said. We leave in 20 minutes, but they were already too late. Velka stood on a rooftop just 4 blocks away, watching. She could see heat signatures through walls. 2 figures, moving quickly, one adult, one smaller. Her visor zoomed in. Target confirmed. She didn't smile, didn't hesitate. She moved, back at the pod. Joran activated the last security system, a crude trap made from scrap grenades and motion sensors. It wouldn't stop a real hunter, but it might slow her down. He turned to Starlet. Do you know how to run? I ran my whole life, she said, her voice steady. But I never had anywhere to go. Now you do, he said, pressing a nav beacon into her hand. If we get separated, follow this. She nodded. But the fear was back in her eyes. They stepped outside, and the wall behind them exploded. Metal shards flew through the air. Dust filled their lungs. Joran pulled Starlet behind a cargo bin, blaster in hand, through the smoke. A figure walked forward, calm, slow, deadly. Velka raised her weapon and fired. Joran ducked and returned fire, shouting, "Run!" Starlet hesitated for 1 second, then bolted down the alley. Her bare feet slapped the ground, her chest tight with panic, behind her. The sound of energy blasts and crashing debris echoed like thunder. Joran fought hard, using the trap he built, luring Velka deeper into the maze of crates and pipes. He wasn't trying to win. He was trying to buy time. Starlet kept running until her legs burned. She followed the beacon's signal over fences, through mud, past broken signs and flickering lights. Her breath was ragged, her eyes wide with terror. But she didn't stop. Suddenly, a shape dropped from above. Velka landed in front of her, silent as a shadow. Starlet froze, heart pounding. Velka raised her blaster. No words, no hesitation. Then a blast struck Velka from behind. Joran, bloodied and limping, stood at the end of the alley. "You don't touch her," he growled. Velka turned, fast. Her weapon up, but Starlet moved first. She reached out, not with her hands, but her mind. Something inside her unlocked. A memory, a command, a burst of energy. Velka's visor cracked, her knees buckled, her weapon dropped. Joran stared in shock. "What? What did you do?" Starlet gasped, trembling. "I don't know. It just happened." They didn't wait. Joran grabbed her hand and they ran, disappearing into the scrapyard tunnels. Velka lay on the ground, her visor sparking. A small symbol flashing on her helmet. Corrupt memory detected. They didn't stop until the sun rose. Joran collapsed near an old drainage pipe, coughing blood. Starlet checked his wound, burned, but not deep. "You should have left me," she said quietly. "I would never," he replied. She held the beacon tight in her hand. The nav light was blinking, guiding them toward the resistance outpost, but the road ahead would be harder now. Someone powerful had sent Velka, and next time, she might not miss. Still, something had changed. Starlet wasn't just a secret anymore. She had power deep inside, locked away, but real. And Joran had seen it. She was no longer a girl sold for scraps. She was something else now, something dangerous, something alive. And the galaxy had no idea what was coming. The cave was small, damp, and quiet, hidden beneath rusted scrap piles near the colony border. No one came here anymore, not since the old mines collapsed. That's why Joran chose it. He sat against the wall, his breathing heavy. Starlet crouched beside him, patching the wound on his side with strips from her own cloak. The burn was deep, but not fatal. Still, he winced with every movement. "You saved me," she said quietly. "I should be the one patching you up." Joran gave her a faint smile. "You stopped Velka. You're more than they thought you were." Starlet looked at her hands. They didn't glow, didn't spark, but she remembered what happened, how Velka collapsed when she reached out. Something had triggered inside her. "What am I?" she whispered. Joran didn't answer. Not because he didn't care, but because he didn't know. Later that night, while Joran rested, she explored the cave. She found an old tech crate buried under dust and stones. Inside was a damaged console, military grade. Starlet's hands trembled as she touched it. It lit up, just slightly. Like it remembered her, she called out, "Joran, come look." He limped over and stared at the console. "Where did you find that?" "It was buried," she said, "but it responded to me." They worked together to clean the wiring, using spare parts from Joran's toolkit. After an hour, the console sparked to life. A blinking light appeared, data locked. Voice ID required. Starlet stared at it. Then, as if pulled by instinct, she spoke. "This is Terranine," the console beeped, unlocking with a soft chime. A message began to play, this time clearer, louder. "This is Terranine of the Varnex Intelligence Corps. If you found this, I am likely dead. I've uncovered proof of mass experimentation on live subjects during the Moon War. Admiral Vescorn and his commanders used memory implants to erase witnesses. I smuggled the last data into a carrier." Her voice shook at the end. "They will hunt her. She won't know who she is, but she must remember." The message ended. And silence filled the cave. Joran sat down slowly, stunned. Starlet held her breath. She whispered, "I was the carrier." Joran looked at her with new eyes. Not just as someone broken or hidden, but as someone chosen. "You were the last hope," he said. The final message? Starlet blinked fast, as if her head was spinning. "But I'm not her. I'm not Terra." "No," Joran said. "You're you, but you carry the voice of someone the galaxy tried to silence outside the cave." Wind howled through metal ruins. Inside, Starlet picked up the small data capsule from her cloak. The one Joran had given her days ago. She slid it into the console's port. The screen flickered, more files opened. Photos, reports, videos, evidence of horrors. Children with wires in their skulls. Soldiers with erased minds, tests, trials, failed clones. All connected to Vescorn. Joran's face grew dark. "These are war crimes," he said. "Real ones, and they buried them by burying you." Starlet stared at the screen, a tear rolling down her cheek. "I thought I was just a slave. I thought I had no worth." Joran gently placed a hand on her shoulder. You were their secret, but now you can be their undoing. Suddenly, the console lit red. Unauthorized access, alert tracking activated. Joran jumped up. We have to move. They found the signal. Starlet yanked the data capsule from the port. The screen died instantly. But the message had already gone out. Where now? She asked, heart racing, to the Resistance. Joran said, they're the only ones who can help us spread this, as they packed quickly. Starlet looked up at the stars peeking through the broken cave roof. I'm not Terra, she whispered, but maybe I can finish what she started. Joran smiled. Despite the pain, I didn't buy a slave, he said. I found a storm. Outside, the world was waking up. Velko would come again, stronger. Others would follow agents, soldiers, liars, because now the truth was loose, and it had a name, a voice. A girl who was traded for liquor, but would now bring down empires. Asterisk, the launch pad looked abandoned, covered in rust, broken lights, and piles of old crates, but deep below it, hidden under the floor, sat a forgotten escape ship, half buried in dust. Its name barely readable. The Ember Fox Joran had found the ship years ago. He never had the parts to fix it until now, and now he had something more valuable than any cargo. Starlet stood beside him. Helping load the fuel cells, she moved quickly. Like someone who had trained in another life. Or maybe someone who had inherited those memories. Joran watched her and thought, she's becoming something fierce. The console inside the ship flickered. Power was unstable. Shields at 40%. Engines not tested in years, but it would have to fly. Because staying here meant death. They had sent the message. They had seen the evidence. And now the hunters were coming. Joran sealed the hatch, flipped the ignition. The ship coughed, groaned, then roared to life. Lights blinked green, engines hummed. We're up, he said. Starlet strapped in beside him. Course. She asked, Resistance base on Hollow Arcus, he answered. Out past the Drenovoid, she nodded, gripping the seat tight as the ship rose. Joran looked out at the colony shrinking below them. That world had thrown her away. Now she was flying above it, but peace didn't last long. Moments after entering orbit, the radar lit up red for ships fast and sharp. Approaching from the dark side of the moon, Joran cursed under his breath. They're here. Starlet's eyes locked onto the radar. They're boxing us in. Velka wasn't done. She had returned with backup, not bounty hunters now, but Imperial interceptors, silent and deadly. The Ember Fox wasn't built for speed. Its old engines wheezed like lungs full of smoke. But Joran knew every bolt in this ship. He slammed the controls. Took a sharp dive. Alarms screamed and metal groaned. We're not fast enough, Starlet said. Then we get smart, Joran replied. He opened the lower compartments, releasing scrap cargo into space. The pieces scattered behind them. Confusing the scanners, lasers flew past, one hitting the left wing. The ship spun. Alarms blared, but Joran kept control. Starlet looked out the side window. One enemy ship was getting too close. She closed her eyes, reaching inward. Then she whispered something, one word, unknown, suddenly. The lights on the enemy ship blinked out. It veered off course and spun wildly into the void. Joran saw it on the radar, eyes wide. What did you just do? I don't know, she whispered, but I felt it. Joran didn't ask again. He pulled the ship into a narrow asteroid field. Rocks floated like frozen mountains, jagged and deadly. No sane pilot flies through this, Joran muttered. Starlet smiled faintly. Lucky we're both insane. They weaved through the asteroids. The Fox scraping more than once, behind them. One enemy ship clipped a rock and exploded. Another tried to follow, but a small asteroid slammed into its wing. Now only one ship remained. Velka. She flew through the field like a ghost. Unafraid, unshaken, locked onto them, Joran's ship shook as a plasma blast hit the rear thruster. Smoke filled the cockpit. Systems flickered. Starlet unbuckled her belt. "What are you doing?" Joran yelled. "I'm ending this," she said, climbing to the rear turret. She sat in the gunner seat. Hands on the old controls, she breathed deep and saw it not with her eyes, but her mind, the enemy ship. Its weak points, its timing. Velka fired again, but Starlet fired first. The turret glowed, and a burst of light shot through the black. It wasn't just a normal shot, there was energy behind it. Something deeper. It hit Velka's ship head-on, blasting through the front armor. The ship spun, burning, drifting into the void. Joran looked back, stunned. "You're learning fast." Starlet returned to her seat. "Breath shallow, I think. I was built to remember. I don't know who I am yet," she said softly. "But I know who I don't want to be." They cleared the asteroid field. The stars opened in front of them, wide and silent. Joran checked the map. Holoarcus, 12 hours out. He turned to her. "You did good, Starlet." She smiled faintly. "I'm not nothing," she said. "Not anymore." And for the first time, she believed it. The Holoarcus station floated above a dying star. It was a forgotten place, built by rebels during the last war. Most thought it had been destroyed. But it was still here, alive in silence, waiting. The Ember Fox docked with a shaky hiss, its hull scorched and bruised. Joran leaned against the control panel. Coughing smoke, Starlet helped him stand. Her arms steady beneath his. They stepped into the docking bay, surrounded by dim lights and shadows. Old metal groaned beneath their boots, and the air smelled of dust and oil, but someone was waiting. A tall alien with bright blue eyes and mechanical arms stepped forward. "Name's Vero," he said. "You sent the message." Starlet nodded, holding the data capsule tight in her hand. "We brought the proof." Vero's expression changed. "Serious, alert, ready, come with me," he said. "There's not much time." They moved quickly through the station's narrow halls. Other rebels stared as they passed, some shocked, some whispering they had seen the broadcast. They had heard the voice of Terranine in a control room lined with old screens and blinking lights. Vero connected the capsule to the main terminal. Images filled the room, photos, recordings, files. War crimes, test subjects, secret codes. One video played on every screen. A soldier screaming as memories were erased. Another showed Admiral Vescorn ordering the wipe of entire colonies. The room fell silent. Joran looked at Starlet. She stood still, calm. But her hands trembled. Vero turned. This will shake the galaxy, but they'll come after you harder now." Starlet met his eyes. "Let them," she said. Joran placed a hand on her shoulder, proud. "She's not running anymore." Vero nodded and opened a comlink. "This is Holoarcus to all rebel channels," he spoke. "Spread the message. Make it loud. Let every world know what the Empire buried." Starlet stepped forward and took the mic. Her voice shook at first, then it grew stronger. "My name is not Terra," she said. "I was sold for 2 bottles of liquor and a shopping cart. I was thrown away, but inside me. They tried to hide the truth." Her words echoed through every channel, every receiver. "I remember what they wanted to forget. I carry the voice of those they silenced. And now I give it back to the stars. Across colonies, rebels heard her on mining worlds. Smugglers paused their work on space stations. Former soldiers stood still, listening, even inside the Empire. Some eyes widened, and somewhere, in the shadows of a rich world, Admiral Vescorn saw her face. He crushed the glass in his hand, blood dripping. She was supposed to be dead, he growled. But she wasn't. She was alive. And now. She was everywhere. Back on Hollow Arcus, Starlet stepped away from the terminal. Her knees nearly gave out, but Joran caught her. You did it, he whispered. She leaned into him, silent tears falling. Not of fear, but of release. They had done it. They had given the forgotten a voice. Later, Vero offered them new identities. Transport, even safety. But Joran shook his head. We're not hiding, he said. We're building something new. Starlet nodded. If they tried to erase people like me, she said, then I'll find the others they threw away, give them names. Voices, lives. Vero smiled. Then stay. Help us lead. And so they did. From that rusted station near a dying star, a girl once sold for scraps became a beacon. Her name was whispered in places where hope had died. No longer starlit, no longer silent. She chose her real name, not from Terra, but from herself, Kirin, the name of a storm. The name of a survivor. The name of the girl who shook the Empire, and Joran, he stood at her side. The man who gave up everything to save someone the galaxy had forgotten, but in doing so, he found something no one could buy, a cause, a family, and a future.